is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. And thank you guys for your support. Here with a quick video today because I'm getting in my playoff mode. I'm getting in my playoff mindset. You see, we got the Sean Taylor jersey on because the last time we played a playoff game in Tampa Bay, my man Sean Taylor made a play that will be in high regard in Washington Commander lore, Washington Redskin lore, Washington organization lore for years to come. So shout out to my dog. But while I get ready for the playoffs and for our matchup against Tampa Bay, I would be remiss not to make a video to acknowledge some of our guys because, guys, the vibes are high. I told you guys this in my last podcast episode, and the vibes are immaculate out there in Ashburn for our Washington Commanders because today it was announced that the AP had announced their all-pro teams for the 2024 NFL season, announcing the first team all-pros as well as the second team all-pros. And our beloved Commanders had 4 guys make the second team all-pro for the 2024 season. Now, while we didn't have any first team all-pros to be named, this is not an award to scoff at by any means. This means that you were one of the 2 best guys, or depending on how much the depth of your position, because it was 6 receivers selected, but you're one of the top guys at your position. And usually we look at the All-Pro Awards as more credence and more credible than the Pro Bowl honors, in which we had Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin selected for Pro Bowl honors last week. So I'm super excited. But before we get too deep into this video, you already know what I'm going to say. Be sure to comment, be sure to like, and be sure to subscribe. We're so close to 2,000 subscribers, and I know I can get there by the time that the playoff game ends, to say that I reach 2,000 subscribers by the end of the season, even though I think we're going to be playing for weeks to come. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications so you're not missing any of this content. And without further ado, man, let's get into this video. The one thing that today told me with the news coming out today, it told me that the organization is all the way back. Like, we're so back. We are so back. I don't know if I've mentioned it, but this is the most all-pros that we've had selected since the 1991 magical season. And, a lot of people hold that 1991 Redskins team in high regard as one of the greatest teams of all time. And we're starting to see that 1991 year pop up a lot in correspondence with some of the stats that we're putting up to this season. And we all know what happened that year. And hopefully we can have a similar outcome for this year as the playoffs start on Sunday. But the one thing that this told me is that the organization is all the way back. And I've said this for a while, and I've said this since I started this podcast, that the NFL is better when the Washington organization is nice and when the Washington organization is succeeding. This is one of the biggest markets in the country, the Washington, D.C. metropolitan market. And we're at the end of the day, no matter if you hear the joke from all the low IQ Philly fans that say, "Oh, I didn't know Washington had fans," like cut the shit. That shit is so tired, because at the end of the day, the Washington organization is one of the pillar organizations in the NFL. This is one of the organizations that the NFL, that carried the NFL on its back in the early years of the NFL's inception. And we're just starting to see some of the vibes that the generations before us experienced as Washington Redskin fans in the 80s and the 90s. And while I haven't necessarily seen it in my 29 years of living and being a fan of this team, there's been little inklings and little glimpses of it during my tenure as a fan base, even in the flash in the pan year like 2012, where Robert Griffin was nothing short of electrifying. Even though we had been through years of turmoil, we were still under Dan Snyder. Just because of that flash in the pan year and the things that RG3 was doing during that 2012 season, you can tell the NFL couldn't wait to make him a media darling, just for the simple fact that he was the Washington Redskins quarterback. Just for the few inklings of success that I've seen this team have during my lifetime as a fan, it tells me that the NFL has just been waiting for us to be nice and be a good organization once again. Well, guess what? The time is finally here. And today kind of encapsulates everything that I've thought about this team during the 2024 season. Because we got some ballers. We got some ballers on the team. And one of the first things that I noticed when the names were announced is that 3 of these guys were bought in March. These guys haven't even spent a year with this organization. And this just goes along with the theme that we've been shouting throughout the Washington Commander community for the entire year, or since last January, to be honest, for the last 12 months, and that's let AP cook. Let Adam Peters cook. Adam Peters, you are a bad motherfucker, man. You are a bad motherfucker, bro, because we needed a rebuild. We needed an overhaul of this roster, and that's exactly what you did. I think it ended up being about 33 new guys that ended up being on the final 53 or on the active roster at some point in this season. And with 3 of those guys being named to the All-Pro team in their first year with Commanders, I can't do nothing but salute you, my man. It's an amazing feeling. What a feeling it is to have real leadership and real GMing in a real front office in Washington, because Lord knows I haven't really experienced that in my years as a fan either. Another thing that the reveal of the All-Pro teams told me is that, hey, the NFL, Associated Press, they've been thirsting to have the Commanders on the list. They've been thirsting and yearning for us to be good. Because like I said, we're one of the biggest markets in the NFL, in the entire country. Like, it just makes sense that you want to push us to the forefront. And we haven't been able to be pushed into the forefront because we haven't had a reason to be pushed in the forefront. We've been one of the cellar dweller organizations since Van der Dweeb had took over during the 1999 season. And like, that's all I've really had known during my time. I think prior to today and prior to this year, I think the only All-Pros that have been named in my lifetime as a fan is what? LeVar Arrington, who else? Jeremy Reeves, Brandon Scherf, and I'm not sure who else. I think Brian Mitchell might have squeezed in a kick return selection during that time, but I'm really not sure who else. And just the simple fact that I can count all those All-Pro selections in my 30 years of living on one hand, that tells you everything that you need to know about the last 30 years for the Washington organization. But enough with the past. Time to look for the future. And another observation that I made is that I believe that Frankie Louvu, out of all of these names, was honestly probably the most deserving to be named to an All-Pro team. If you guys follow me on social media, you know I've been starting a All-Pro US Louvu for All-Pro campaign since September, because I think that he came in and injected life into our defense. And I think that he was the best player on our defense up until December. I do think that his play has kind of fallen off since December. Not saying that he's a scrub or any means, but I don't know if he's played to that All-Pro level since the calendar has turned to December and January. But he did enough for the All-Pro, the Associated Press, to deem him as an All-Pro this season. I know prior to December, he was on pace to be the first player since James Harrison in 2010 to have 100 sacks and 100 tackles and 10 sacks in a single season. Now, he finished with 99 tackles and 8 sacks, falling short of both of those marks, but those still are remarkable numbers for a guy that we use in a plethora of ways. We use him rushing off the edge. We use him in coverage. I'll be remiss to not even include his interception that he had on the season and the one forced fumble that he had on the season. And like I said, I think he was the best player on our defense up until December. I think that honor might go to Jeremy Chin now. And I think that Jeremy Chin had a strong case of making the second team All-Pro team as well. But the safety position was so loaded with the likes of Kirby Joseph, Xavier McKinney, Cal Hamilton. Like, that's just a loaded position in 2024 in the NFL. Another observation that I made is that Terry McLaurin, my guy, top 10 Terry, touchdown Terry, finally got some love with his first All-Pro recognition of his 6-year career. He's been a Pro Bowler a couple of times, but as I mentioned before, All-Pro just has a little bit more cachet, a little bit more credence. And one thing that I did notice, and what Terry's selection told me, is that touchdowns fucking matter. Touchdowns matter. Scoring points matter. Because if we look at Terry's stat line, Terry didn't even crack 1,100 yards, guys. Terry finished the season with 1,098 yards, good enough for 15th in the NFL. So he's been matching that top 10, top 15 claim that we've been throwing on his name throughout the entire year. But he was second in the entire league in touchdowns with 13, behind Jamar Chase, who I believe had 18 touchdowns on the season, and he ran away with the Triple Crown. Like Jamar Chase is a lot first team, all pro selection this year. So Terry wasn't even, competing with him, but he made the second team all pro list with the likes of CeeDee Lamb and AJ Brown. So it was an NFC East sweep for the, wide receiver position for the second team all pro. The first team all pros at the wide receiver position was them LSU Demons, who, if we being honest, are the two best receivers in the NFL right now. And it's crazy to think that they were on the same team at one time in Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown wrapped up the first team all pro selections for the wide receivers. But that told me that touchdowns matter. Touchdown Terry. And I'm just so happy that Terry's finally gotten some love. Even if you feel like he didn't deserve it this year, Terry McLaurin is an all-pro player. He's been an all-pro Redskin. He's been an all-pro Commander, and he's our all-pro. And he's the most beloved player in this fan base, I believe. And I think Jalen Daniels included, to be 100% honest. I think he can give JD5 a run for his money as the most beloved player on the team and in the organization. So I'm so excited to see Terry make the all-pro list. Bobby Wagner, Grandpa Bobby, the OG, the old man. I think this is more of a lifetime achievement award for Bobby, because while he did pick up his play over the course of the second half of the season, if you've been since the beginning of the year, I think that Bobby Wagner started the season off rather slow, which is understandable, getting acclimated to a new organization, new defensive scheme, and things of that nature. But if you look at the counting stats, 132 tackles, 13 years with 100 plus tackles, which is fucking insane. This is his 11th straight all-pro selection. And I think this goes along with I do think he had a better year here in 2024 than he did with the Rams in 2022. I also felt like that was a lifetime achievement name brand award that he got then. I'm not complaining, because guess what? He's on our side, and the more the merrier as far as awards for the Washington Commanders. Like, I ain't about to complain. So, Bobby definitely picked up the play over the course of the second half of the season. Because as I mentioned, while even in the beginning half of the year, while his tackle totals were high, he was making a lot of those tackles 6 to 7 yards down the field. Now, over the course of the second half of the season, November and December, he started making those tackles, a couple of them behind the line of scrimmage, a couple of them 2 yards past the line of scrimmage and 3 yards past the line of scrimmage. And I also think that this is an indictment on the inside linebacker play in the NFL right now. There's not that many dominant inside linebackers in the NFL right now. Gone are the days of Ray Lewis and Brian Urlacher being shoo-ins as the all-pro. And guess what? Bobby Wagner is the modern-day Ray Lewis and Brian Urlacher. That's why he's having these 11 straight selections, because there isn't a guy whose play is just so far off the charts that we're not about to knock this shoe-in guy we've been voting for 11 years. We're not about to knock him off his throne just yet. And one thing that this season has also told me is that Bobby Wagner still has a little bit left in the tank. So I'm curious to see if we extend him, being that he came on a 1-year deal. And lastly, Austin Ekeler being that second team All-Pro was honestly probably my biggest surprise. But when you look and see that, up until I think the week before he got hurt against Dallas 7 weeks ago, he was leading the NFL in kick return, overall net yardage for the kick return game. He made it as a kick returner. And that's also an indictment on the kick return game. We see so many teams booted out the end zone. Austin Ekeler, and if we can remember what he was doing at the beginning of the season, giving us some amazing field position. I know his touchdown against the New York Giants in week 2 got called back, but he was constantly putting us on the plus side of the field, getting us within the 30 and the 40-yard line and things of that nature, and making the distance to go to the end zone shorter for us. So when you look back and see what he was doing earlier in the year. I think that, he got this recognition based off of his work in September and October. And I'm so excited that it validated my thought. I said it a long time ago, and if you're a day one Bleeding BNG fan, if you've been rocking with us since the beginning of the season, I was the one that said that I thought that Austin Ekeler should be out there on kick returns, being that with the new kickoff setup and the way that the alignment is, that the kick return game is more like an open field run play with kind of the blocking assignments. I thought that Austin Ekeler was going to be able to take advantage of that. And he did just that while he was healthy during the 2024 season. Austin Ekeler was named the All-Pro, and he missed like 6 games. He only played in like 11 games. So that tells you when he was healthy, he was lethal. And let's be honest, it wasn't a better kick returner than Kavontae Turpin. And that's why he was in the entire NFL. And that's why he had made the first team All-Pro as the kick returner. But the vibes are high. The vibes are immaculate in Washington, in Ashburn. And hopefully we can translate these positive vibes and this good feeling and this momentum into a belt-to-ass whooping against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday. I might give you guys a preview tomorrow, but thank you guys for tuning into this video. And yeah, we got some All-Pros. Like, we nice. We nice. We one of them ones. We about to be a organization to be reckoned with in Washington for years to come. I'll check on you guys on the flip side. Peace.